This is Chapter 3 of Runner. Now that same Brent Miller was back at Lincoln High, playing war hero. He stood at attention, looking out over the class. When our eyes caught, there was a quick flash of recognition. He smirked at me, and it was as if no time had at all had passed, as if he were still holding me over the toilet. I quickly looked away. I wanted to keep my eyes turned away. I wanted to stare at those greedy birds and that green grass, but I just couldn't keep myself from looking back. And I couldn't keep myself from listening either. Miller's voice was cool and confident. Someday he was going to be a tank commander. He hoped he'd be assigned to Iraq. He'd only been in the service 9 months, but already he had learned about teamwork and dedication and patriotism. Being in the army was the greatest job in the world. Everybody else was falling for his patriotic trash, but I knew him for what he was, a loser who joined the army because he had no place else to go other than jail. As he droned on, waves of heat rolled over me, followed by waves of cold. The whole time my stomach churned. I wanted the hour to end, but time crawled along. What made it worse was that Heather Carp and Melody Turner and their whole group gaped at Miller as if he really were a war hero. Finally he stopped. I thought it was over, that he'd leave, but Arnold came to his side. Private Miller would be willing to answer a few questions if you have any. Brian Mitchell, who was in some sort of Marine training already, shot his hand up. Are you afraid of dying? Miller cleared his throat. If I have to die for my country, I will. And if I have to kill for my country, I'll do that too. It was as if he were a really bad actor in some really bad war movie. Any other questions? Mr. Arnold asked, looking around. No hands waved about. I let out a sigh of relief. But just as Miller was about to leave, Melody Turner raised her hand. As usual, Melody was stuffed into a tank top 2 sizes too small for her, and she twisted sideways in her seat so he'd be sure to notice. She gave him her bad girl smile and bit the tip of her pencil. This is a little off the topic, she said, but what do Army privates do for fun? Heather Carp and her other friends giggled. Miller grinned. The same things you like to do, I'd bet, he said. Maybe we should get together then, Melody said. The class roared. Arnold waved his hands around like a cop trying to keep a car from driving into a ditch. All right, he said, smiling. That's enough of that. Melody picked at her fingernails. You said you wanted questions. I know I did, Melody, Arnold said, but I meant serious questions. He looked out. Does anyone have one? That's when Melissa Watts raised her hand.